Hi there, welcome to the Dylan Rounds case. Today we're going to have a discussion. I'm going to be responding back to a range of different comments from some of my previous videos and just, round it up all there because there's some key points mentioned by Skeptical. There's an interesting point, as said from the last video, to do with quintessential organics, referring to Don Hatley's trailer and blood being found or something. So I'm going to be reading over the comments, answering any questions and see if there's any additional new interesting information. And of course, once again, you can share your additional thoughts down below under this video in the comment section. Down below, you'll find a pinned comment by me. If you want to check the links out, if you want to support the channel in alternative ways, it's all available. For those that are currently hearing this live premiere, welcome. Feel free to share your thoughts, opinions, reactions in the chat box. And in general, if anyone wants to catch up on the last video that I did, which was talking about the ongoing mysteries within the Dylan Rounds case, which have not really been solved, resolved, or brought up since, make sure to check that out. Top right corner of the screen, click on that eye symbol, you'll be redirected over that way, and you can watch it. And the playlist of the Dylan Rounds case coverage by me will also be available there. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. There is a slight second part of this video because I didn't want it to be a standalone one, but it can be incorporated within this because it could be in response to the odd comment of today where I can add on key points, right? Call it being on the defensive, but I have some valid points to mention and it could be of your interest. And one of the themes and topics is the discussions versus the rants. People out there, more so outsiders, are very ignorant when it comes to wording and labeling of a person's video by just saying, it's a rant, I'm not going to listen to that rant. That's all it is. Far from it. Ignorant people. I'm going to address that later, so don't go anywhere. But for now, let's focus on Dylan Rounds. Let's look back at some of the comments from the last 2 to 3 videos that I've done and see what people have had to say in recent time. Here we are with the first video, already adjusted to the latest comments, and we'll work our way up. First we got Edwin. Shout out to Edwin. I think we've seen him before. Angelina popping in here and there. You're welcome. We got Maria, a different one, saying, Candice Owen, criticise you all, YouTuber pretty hard, and y'all are crazy people. I think what is crazy is your spelling, your language, your structuring of your sentences. I think you need to rethink yourself, Maria, okay? This Maria is a bad example in the name of all the other Marias out there. Even Maria Meow is face palming right now. But, default profile, what more would you expect from this? Joined 2 years ago, so it's not exactly a troll account. What they actually called? Maria Bengtsson Viking. Okay, so you're a bit of a Viking. Why not get that Viking war horn and shove it up the ass, man? Yeah. Don't worry, I can play a few tunes for you because, don't worry, all under control, Maria. If you go to my channel, okay, besides all the whinging and whining, what you will find is Viking war horns, in which one of which was used in a short Indian movie. Okay, feel free to check it out when you want. But what else do we have? Someone saying, somebody call 112. Well, that's the incorrect number if you're referring to the UK, but obviously Maria does not have a funny bone hair in response to the Watcher of Crazy Printer video. So yeah, bit of a waste of space. Let's move on. And who is Candice Owen? I thought it was Candice Cooley, or have names changed with times. Anyway, we got June showing up once again, not seen them for a bit, saying, we will never know what happened to Dylan on that day. Hopefully he's found somehow, but even if Brenner talks, can we believe him? If he were given a lesser sentence for the truth, yes, because if he lies, then the plea deal is null and void. Fair point. What do I want to start with her then? We'll probably never know what happened to Dylan. What? Because there's no surveillance, there's no footage like that. But there's a possible way of knowing how Dylan may have died and what was done to him if they're able to do a successful autopsy report, if they manage to find Dylan Rounds' remains, I mean, like, even if it was skull and bones, they found a skull and it had a hole in and it matched to like a bullet hole, then you'd say, well, Dylan Rounds got shot, right? So there'll be ways of knowing. It's like in recent time when we looked at about Frenchman Mountains and even Christine Passé Parker, how these like autopsies or these dental records, these analyses were done to be able to, you know, what do you call it? Come to some kind of conclusion as to who it belongs to, who it is. Now the Frenchman Mountain one is still pending, but the Christine Passé Parker one was identified. But as for the cause of death, that's pending. But they're in the process of doing that, and that's with remains. So surely the same could happen with Dylan if remains were found in the end. As for Brenner revealing the location, I don't know. Other people said he won't forget, but is it possible to forget exactly where you buried a person? Just because if the land is so vast and open and it all kind of looks the same and it's just a very precise spot, are you really going to remember it? Because you're not probably going to have the coordinates. Anyway, I think this is the key comment which we're looking at today by Quintessential Organics. This is an individual that created that Excel spreadsheet listing all the events and things that went on and where it came from and where it was talked about on the different shows, channels and panels. Quintessential says, "Hi, I remember right in the beginning someone mentioned that blood was found on Don Hatley's trailer. Trailer was searched and they found Brenner's guns and ammo in the trailer. No mention of the trailer after until now that they took it away as evidence. I wonder if the blood on it was Dylan's." So is Quintessential here referring to when I was talking about the trailer being taken away, and that's what Candice Cooley had said on the Profiling Evil live stream? Because if that's what Quintessential was influenced by, hence this comment, the trailer that was taken away, which Candice Cooley was referring to, was the trailer that Dylan originally bought for Brenner to live in whilst he was on the Grangeshed property, right? Hopefully that makes sense there. But this comment by Quintessential referring to Don Hatley's trailer, blood found on the trailer. Why would blood be found on Don Hatley's trailer? And was anything done about it? Any investigation? I mean, Quintessential is just simply passing it on from what was said at the beginning, and it was by someone else. Now, I wonder who that someone else is. Is that someone else a disruptor within the case? Is it a local in the area? Is it a genuine person? I wonder. Anybody watching right now, let me know your thoughts. Were you ever aware that Don Hatley's trailer had blood on it? And to what extent? And whose blood was it? I mean, to be fair, one way of looking at it, maybe we can apply it to Google Earth Maps shortly after reading the comments, because you can tie one thing with another. But I don't want to do a standalone video because it could be kind of short, so I'll just incorporate it here. I responded saying, "Are you saying Don's trailer was taken in as evidence as well in recent time? If so, where did you hear that from?" Yeah, so that's kind of how I interpreted it here originally from Quintessential. Badger Life says, "When listening to non-credible creators, one should take information with a grain of salt." Oh, is that a pun? Is that a pun intended or not? Yeah. Anyway, we'll refer back to this later, so don't go anywhere, because there is one way of working it out in common sense, and it would link. Cleo, you're welcome. KB, shout out to KB, saying, "You, Warlight Ref, are probably talking about some incident by someone from this channel, but still very wise advice regarding posting pictures online publicly. I thought this was common sense. Nevertheless, it's good if you to remind people to be cautious." Who are you? I've seen KB around. They've not caused any trouble. Now, I can't remember the theme of the video that I did at the time, but it's positive, I guess. Oh, Matt Bingo Lingo. Oh, changing the names. Not as much in terms of changing the names of some out there, some whiny individuals, but Matt Lingo built different. But I do think, Matt, you might need to change your username or tag handle to Matt Ling Long. You know, because you own that restaurant, of course. You need to stand loud and proud about it. Ling Long's Bing Bong's restaurant. Matty Boy here says, I wasn't even watching and I got a free membership from Watcher Crazy. Thank you. I missed the show today, catching up now. There you go. Badger. Haha, sure. Okay. What else do we have? We've got Jeep Dick Brigade. Interesting name. Anyway, much strange is there are certain spots on Google Earth that don't have a good timeline. That is one of the spots that has a terrible map timeline. Right, so I guess this person's referring to Google Earth's satellite imagery being outdated, possibly. Now, Bing Maps is a lot better, but you're limited to what you can do there. You can't create projects. You can't add markers, beacons. You can't flip the image. You can't get down and zoom in as much. So I don't like it. And you can't rotate the same way. Skeptical notices an orb within my video previously. Badger Life sees it as well. So that seems to be an ongoing occurrence in my videos. Orbs flying about me. Well, bloody hell, I wish those orbs would ping off into people's directions of resistance. You know, if they're there to shed the light or something, push all the dark forces away. Christy, you're welcome. Mousetrap, you're welcome. And that's it there. Fairly short, but we do have the other videos to get through as for comments. And as said here, Don Hatley's trailer with blood on it. Interesting. The second comment section thread is now up on screen. We'll start from the bottom. We got Glenn again. Cleo saying, Warlike Ralph, simply ambitious, strong and stable. Please don't stop. I need you and your content. I'm forever grateful for you showing me what stability and persistence is, and patience. I'm grateful. You're welcome. As well, I guess another thing or another key takeaway is, besides persistence, patience, stability, it's also understanding that it's okay to have breaks regardless of who it is, and it can apply to anyone. Whether you're a creator or a viewer, it's okay to have breaks. If you want to lay low for a few weeks, a month or two or longer, if that's what you want or need, then that's what you do. Okay. Obviously in the past, when people ended up going quiet, or if I stopped or slowed down, there was all kinds of conspiracies created about me, and it was obviously unnecessary at times. But you know, people will step down at times. My stamina, yeah, it does last longer, but it's not infinite, right? So it's just all about understanding the balance there too, Cleo. Moving on, we got Cat Loves ASMR. She says, I've had strikes on my own family videos. I've also been threatened to have my channel deleted. So sad, since all my videos are of my own family stuff. No, I don't think it's right. So many people doing the same old documentary or news and they don't get striked. Stay strong. So yeah, it was to do with the theme, that video at the time, of where I used a short amount of footage from the Dylan Rounds documentary. I did my analysis. I added a lot of original value to the video, but like weeks or months, a year later, whenever it was, I received a copyright claim. It wasn't that strict, but it still happened. And yet that documentary crew that did the copyright claim have the cheek to use my footage without my consent. So kind of copyright, and also slander my name in the process, putting words into my mouth. But here, Kat has had her own issues on YouTube, and it looks like other people have more so in recent time. I guess the more videos you upload and the more active you are as a creator on YouTube, the more problems and BS you probably will face. Now, my response to her was, is it someone you know? Could it be a person with a grudge? Cat Loves says, yes, she was one of those jealous ones. Right, so it's a female. So is this female cat, not female cat, I'm saying cat in your username, Is the female that you know someone you know in real life or close to you in real life as for distance? Or is it just an online individual? Are they related in any way or not? And regarding a grudge, how long has it been, right? Of course, if you can't explain it, that's fine. KB, there we go. Christy, you are a winner! I'm a winner! Right? Best not say that too loud or we might summon some jealous people. So shout out to Christy there for the support on the channel. Person called Al or AI saying, I don't know if this helps at all or not, but a lot of the content creators I watch are stating a lot of the same complaints as you are. It's not just you. One of the larger channels I watched faithfully every day was completely wiped by his platform, straight up gone. I truly believe this platform has outlived its purpose. It's only a matter of time before they become Yahoo. I switched most of my focus on Rumble platform channels simply because from my point of view, I can comment and know it will stick. So yeah, I have tried Rumble, but I just don't like it. There's so little tools. The way you upload the videos, it's really dodgy, right? It's not like YouTube where you just upload them and then with time, if you join the program and this and that, and then you got other options. With Rumble, it's straight up. Are you going to upload this video as a video manager or a directive or an exclusive to Rumble only or an exclusive to YouTube or worldwide? And how will the profits be shared and split? And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? That on Rumble you can upload your own video onto the platform. Rumble can take control of the video management and post it elsewhere as well, but it means you no longer have the right to delete your own video no more. But you've got the other option where you can upload it. You've got the option to delete your own video in the future, but it won't be shared to as many platforms as much. And that if you do upload videos to Rumble and you do it under a certain license, which conflicts with YouTube because you do videos on YouTube too, there could be copyright claims because it's almost like the ownership of your video gets taken away and it's in the hands of somebody else. And if that video is also on YouTube, you get copyright claims. Rumble is pathetic. My goodness. You know, it's so weird. It's slippery. It's slimy. It's awkward to use. Terrible upload times. Terrible percentage. Terrible thumbnails, terrible editor, there's nothing. It's useless. If in the future, right, it does get upgraded, because it massively needs upgrading, then maybe I'd look back into it. But YouTube, still to this day, as bad as it may be at times, YouTube is really the only place when it comes to uploading videos and having a range of tools at hand to use. But it's interesting for this individual to share. It's helpful, yes, knowing that there's other people having issues. I still think, though, that I might slightly edge it when it comes to back-to-back BS, considering the 5 months of the low self-certification score and all that rubbish. That was insanity. Moving on. Bungie says, this was a great video. Sorry, some Karen out there is probably flagging your content, forcing YouTube to closely examine it. I personally have grown away from the Kenny Veach case and Dylan, or at least till his killer goes to trial. I'll always watch if it's something different. I used to like that outdoor content you did in the past. Yeah, it just so happens that the outdoor stuff, it gets very muddy and it's just effed up the ground, so it'd be slipping all over the place, and the horses always in the way now, so that's a problem, and work being done too. And there was, yeah, you need to be able to talk about something on the spot at the time, and there isn't always things to talk about, so that was like the reason why I did it back then. But yeah, speaking of Karens, luckily the Polish Karen in Vegas has quietened down and simmered down since. Good, mortal fool. Let's move on. June, have you asked other creators such as True Crime how they do things to not get strikes or whatever, or reaction channels, how do they get away with it? To be honest, I think, and I've looked elsewhere when it comes to other stuff like short form content. It's just a matter of cross your fingers and hope you don't get caught out. That's literally it. Does it apply directly to true crime? I mean, it might do here and there, but it has applied to other themes and topics I've looked into. That, everybody's treading on thin ice and anybody could be taken out at any point with the copyright stuff. But there was another comment by someone recently, June, where they said when they do play the footage, they have the overlay of themselves talking over or just simply sat there reacting. So by maximizing their image size and minimizing the video size on screen, it kind of transforms it and you get away from the copyright. But I'll tell you something, I've done other videos in the past, simply short form videos. I've transformed the video, I've even reversed the video, I've flipped it around, I even changed the volume, I took away the original volume, I added music on top of it, copyright free, I changed the colour tone, the theme, I transformed it completely so it wasn't as original as what it was from elsewhere, and it still got punished. So there's really no running, I guess. Right, this person saying, in all fairness, no new updated facts, just reopening of wounds of content speculations. Nothing is bad towards you, just an old ongoing, simply put, you're beating a dead horse. Now, I guess this person that's left the comment, it's not a pun in terms of Brenner's horse Briscoe beating a dead horse. But, this person isn't causing any trouble, they're just sharing their opinion. Interesting, though, how when you do get comments like this, and more so other ones out there which could be more negative, and you look at the like ratio, and there's at least 3 people, and other times more, that agree with these points, and you wonder, those 3 people that have agreed with the comment, why didn't they dislike the video? When it's come to other videos I've done, maybe a bit more controversial or maybe more triggering to some idiots out there, and they've left a comment, they've complained, they've whined, and then 4 to 5 people have liked that comment, so it means 4 to 5 other people are just as bad as the commenter, and yet you look at the like to dislike ratio of the video and only 1 person or 2 people disliked it. So I wonder why they didn't dislike the video on top of liking the negative comment, I wonder, unless people are just lazy. But it always makes me wonder, I wonder who those people are secretly in the background liking these negative comments, I wonder. As said, the one on screen isn't that negative. I do get what this person's referring to. Basically, in summary, that not much else is coming out yet with the Dylan Brown's case. So really, it's a matter of waiting till the trial, till the preliminary and all of that, or the next bit of breaking news. In between, nothing. So there's no point. And that's where people go wrong. Oh, there's no point now. There is a point. And there's always a backstory as well. Because whilst it seems like beating a dead horse, okay, Dale beats his snail meat. Matt Lingo beats the bingo balls, or someone else does it for him. Beating a horse does not happen here. Okay, horse riding sessions did take place at one point in the past, but right now it's about just referring back to key points and things that faded away, or, the last video to do with the mysteries, okay? Because it's wanting to know what happened and what about those previous talks and references. If it's not been heard of before, no harm. And this is the thing, you get a lot of YouTubers out there that will cover a true crime case or maybe a mystery one. Yeah, it's already been covered before. Yes, it's a really old case, might be a cold one. And yet people come around to look at the case, to talk about it, to share it with their audience, because that's what they do, that's their role, that's their purpose, etc. on their channels. So no matter how old or new a case is and where it's ended up, right, to go to it and cover it, there's no harm. But, those people don't cover the case most of the time like how I do. So I get that. But there are still things to talk about, and I've been mentioning things I've not mentioned before because I've only just thought of it now. So it is new things going on, right? New community updates, you could call it. So there's valid points. David Bell, they're out to get you. Well, looks like that. Inspector Gadget saying, even though the documentary is developed by an independent creator, Matt Claw is not immune to the spin doctor in this case. Family legacy seems to be the focus going forwards. Content creation will have to toe the line, much like East Idaho News, and support the narrative. Cold hard facts cannot be tolerated since the truth exposes the spin. As this happens, those with integrity and honour will band closer together to fight for what is right and true. Okay. And that appears to be it there. So let's just go through the final set of comments now. Here we are, final video. Newest comments. Start from the bottom. Cleo, you're welcome. This guy here, sure thing, Steve McQueen. Right. Also saying, so the Dylan Rounds case is making the rounds again. Yep, there's the pun there. We've got Deborah. Shout out to Deborah. Glenn as well. Skeptical shows up. So, Badger Life. You've been wondering where she's at. What Skeptical's her. There you go. So, ooh. Uh-oh. We're back again with the long comments. Not seen them for a bit. Bit of a exercise for the mouth. Okay. Skeptical says, it's not easy to find information on Dr. Phil's new network. From what I could find, his new show, Dr. Phil Prime Time, premiered in February, and the new season starts April 2nd. Nowhere could I find a show schedule stating what episode airs when. Unfortunately, I think US citizens will need a cable subscription to watch his new network, Merritt Street Media. This means no streaming apps. Could be wrong, but it's all I could find after an hour searching. I don't have cable, but I will find a way to watch. Someone undoubtedly will upload it to YouTube, hopefully. So this is in response to Candice Cooley going on to Dr. Phil's new show, talking about the Dylan Rounds case, but I think it's more so the legal stuff within Utah, the courts. So it could be underwhelming, but I guess time will tell. Some people could say, is it worthwhile? What's the point behind it? I guess it's to spread awareness of the case, Dylan's name, and what went wrong and what should be changed, I guess. Skeptical says, do we know if the episode is a one-on-one with Candice Cooley, or is she a part of a bigger group of the true crime cases? I think Candice Cooley will be one-on-one with Dr. Phil, as it was been worded in the Profiling Evil livestream interview. Profiling Evil, that guy, has used some drone footage which he passed on to the Dr. Phil episode, so it'll be used there, I guess, when narrating or using it as a backdrop when talking. I guess Candice Cooley could be representing a bigger group of other families out there on behalf of them, like with Dylan's legacy, and referring to that. Skeptical says, I don't care for Dr. Phil. In my opinion, he exploits his guest for ratings, offers help, and then turns on them. I suppose in some situations it is warranted, especially where drugs abuse of concern. Dr. Phil is not afraid to ask the hard questions. In Dylan's case, I believe there are many hard questions to be asked, especially of Candice Cooley. To the Dylan Rounds community, if there's one hard question you would want to ask Candice Cooley directly, what would it be? So, that could be the question of today. What I could do, Skeptical, so more people see this, I can actually maybe repost your comment, requote it on the community page and see what people have to say there. So I'll just read it out here if people want to answer. If not, I'll post it on the YouTube channel page. Saying, the question, to the Dylan Rounds community, if there's one hard question you would want to ask Candice Cooley directly, what would it be? Let me know down below. Skeptical says, Raph, I can't recall at what time was the Jubilee truck seen. Was it in the morning or in the afternoon? So it was seen by a couple known as Walt and Michelle, and they were at Sun Tunnels, I think maybe leaving at the time, and they passed by the Jubilee truck. And the Jubilee truck was leaving the grain shed property just after 3 p.m, so going into the afternoon. It's around a time when Brenner was supposedly at Don Hatley's place, or on the way to Don Hatley's place for that barbecue. Okay, so the timing of that is kind of interesting, I guess, because if Brenner is away onwards to Don Hatley's place, how did that truck have access? Did they have a key or not? Is it a regular person? That's what we've got to try and figure out, right? As I said, we can do a separate video of this, Skeptical, recalling the Jubilee truck. But once again, in response to your question, it was after 3 p.m. when it was seen by Walt and Michelle leaving Grangeshed property. Okay. Skeptical says, could Dylan's gun be the murder weapon? The bullet could be inside of Dylan, and without Dylan, there is no way of knowing. His gun was returned by an unknown individual, presumably cleaned and with the clip out. If Dylan was shot at the Grangeshed or his farm, there should be a bullet casing and or blood, unless the murderer cleaned it up like Brenner's spring cleaning, or was Dylan driven away from the area and then killed? Fair points. I mean, if you wanted to link one thing with another, if Dylan's own gun was used against him by Brenner, let's say, obviously the gun was retrieved, okay, by the family eventually after it supposedly disappeared. But if you want to tie that in with the alternative narratives out there by some, that supposedly Dylan's brother and Dylan's friend took it away from the trailer themselves, then went to Larry Rounds, and then Larry Rounds told him to put it back, but he did it himself and cleaned the gun down of evidence so it didn't track back onto them. Well, that's completely messed the case up, hasn't it? But I still find that silly, hard to believe that idea, because where's the real proof and evidence of it? Because I've only seen it from some people online, as Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds. You know, this is what I find funny. There are a range of people out there, including audience members, that are still very stubborn till this day, and some have shown up on my channel. Okay, they're going about the gun and the key fob not being taken by the suspect, but more so taken away by friends or family members, and then returned back by the grandfather of Dylan's afterwards. And yet they also claim that Justin Rounds knows all about that, and that's where they got the information from, and that Candice Cooley doesn't know anything about it, and she's left in the dark, presumably because no one can trust her. And yet, when Justin Rounds and Candice Cooley were doing an interview at some point previously, which we looked at in the early days of East Idaho News, both Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds said that Dylan's friend and brother had no clue that it was missing in the first place, because when they got there, after the parents were there first of all, they said, oh, here's the gun, here's the key fob, right? Justin Rounds said it himself. So why are these third-party dodgy disruptors claiming that it's not the case and that Justin knows the truth when he's not even revealing to the general public anyway? Because he's not even acknowledging it in the first place. As said, if anyone wants to look back at my, I'm not trying to be narcissistic here, but my outstanding summary, perfection, point it all into perspective of the sheer bullshit of the alternative narrative. Like, you get these random people online speaking as if they know it all, but they seem to have more information than the actual professionals within the case. And yet they're just simply mere outsiders. And speaking of one individual, it was interesting when I asked a question to Corey saying, are you going to appear in the court trials of Brenner, since you seem to know a lot? And she said, hinting at it. Something like, maybe. I'm thinking, right, so if that's the case, should you really be talking about all this now publicly then? See, this is where it gets really dodgy. The problem with Corey in the past, she didn't always answer my direct questions, which was a bit awkward. And as well, Corey did contradict herself massively at the start when she appeared on my channel. I'm saying it for what it is. Clear, valid observations. She ended up switching and changing with what she was saying or how she was wording stuff. She contradicted herself. It's not a good look, considering that Candice Cooley gets all the criticism for switching and changing of information and accuracy, making it hard to believe in them, when you got someone else who could be very critical of Candice Cooley doing the same exact thing. It's just not a good look. It's very hypocritical, and we know where that goes, right? So, in response back to Corey, who was hinting at appearing in the trial of Brenner in the name of the Dylan Rounds case, that's what they said. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so all this information you're sharing right now could be sensitive to the case, supposedly, and is reserved for the trial of Brenner and the Dylan Rounds case, reserved for that, and additional evidence too, reserved for that date, which we don't know of yet, as for the, DNA evidence found along the way. And yet Corey can just, spurt it all out like that. And she's supposed to make a court appearance in the future. Should you be sharing all this publicly? Could it be legal reasons, damage to the case, implications there? Because the family haven't mentioned any of that, what you've mentioned. Not even just in Rounds, even the head of the table that seems to know all this in the first place. That's not been mentioned. Police hasn't mentioned it. Court documents haven't mentioned it. News articles haven't mentioned it. And yet an outsider, who's not even directly in the case, seems to know it all, and is appearing in trial in the future in the name of the Dylan Rounds case, and yet can talk about it all now, but no one else can. Won't they be harming the case? Or can they just say whatever they want because it's not going to harm the case because it's not exactly true? You see? This is this is how it goes with the Dylan Rounds community in a nutshell. The fairest point, okay? Whether something's right or wrong, the fairest point is waiting until it's analysed and assessed professionally, or you'd hope professionally, and done officially in papers, in documents, in articles, in statements. Even with time, some people could say, I told you so, I said it early on, why didn't you listen? There's no harm in getting a second opinion. And what I would say is, we've not had a true second opinion when it comes to a lot of claimed narratives and stories within this case, right? I mean, Fast Eddie at some point had a bit of an obsession with the gun and key fob. Fast Eddie was a little bit awkward when it came to me trying to get my point across, and he just didn't quite understand it. But I'm sure if Fast Eddie slowed down a little bit, okay, replaced the exhaust from the back end and looked at my community post, that perfection paragraph, it would wake a lot of people up, okay? See, this is the thing, and I will never forget, okay? When it comes to the other communities and the other channels out there, audience members can be just as guilty as the creators when it comes to disruption, whether it be enabling disruption or the catalyst of it, or just simply spreading it in different ways. That could be information, that could be misdirection, it could be impersonation, it could be anything, right? And you could say Salty Pancakes community, X community. Some of those people, oh, they're all innocent now. Oh, they're all good people and friendly. Yeah, some of them were complete prats within the Dylan Rounds case, the way they acted, behaved, and the information that they talked about with poor wording, right? Poor wording. Let's make that very clear. But as well, other communities too. Jim Terry's community and ex-community members, ex-community audience from Jim Terry, and the ongoing Bob Farrell Twin Mama community. Certain people out there from those places that are all innocent now, and it's all nice and nice, whatnot, and yet at some point in the past, they were going on and on and on about the supposed facts which were BS or haven't been really reinforced since or yet. You see? And yet here, balance, right? I'm not going to completely dismiss certain points. And to be honest, these outside people could come in and say, oh, you're not listening, blah, 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 and then start typing in capital letters. The keyboard is about to blow up and take off into the sky. Just understand one thing, at least I acknowledge your comments. Whether they're ridiculous or not, whether they're BS or the truth, I still read them. So I'm still acknowledging them. I'm still giving you like a moment to for your points to be mentioned and others to talk about it. So that's one positive at least. Other people would just completely ignore it, right? Moving on. What a skeptical got us into with all these comments. She says, all the burial places are a possibility because Jim Brenner had plenty of time even to temporarily put Dylan somewhere then go back and move him. Because as we know, the family didn't get out there until Monday. Yes, Don Hatley supposedly went with Brenna on Sunday to look for Dylan, but I'm not entirely convinced he's innocent as well. Fair point. And this is the other key thing, I guess, you know? A temporary burial point and then moving elsewhere. That falls under the term desecration. Desecration can be damaging the remains of a body, burning, breaking up, chopping up, right? That's a form of desecration. Simply burying a body and concealing it is desecration. Or burying a body, digging it back up, and then burying it elsewhere afterwards is a form of desecration. And that's exactly what I was referring to within the case of Dylan Rounds. And yet, once again, outsiders, certain so-called innocent people of today, but elsewhere, back then, elsewhere, were very awkward and temperamental in terms of grasping the idea of an umbrella term of desecration. So when I previously said, before Candice Cooley even mentioned it publicly, that I sense or I feel that maybe Dylan was buried temporarily in a close proximity to where the scene of the crime took place because of concealment and because Brenna was going on to the barbecue at Don Hatley's, let's just say, then given the next day, maybe taking more action, right? Because the day before, temporarily buries Dylan, let's just say, goes on to Don's place, maybe confesses, and then they're like, you know what, tomorrow we'll work it out, we'll sort something out. Something like that, right? And what did other people do? Oh no, Raf, that's not desecration. You don't know. That's not an umbrella term. Yes, it is. Look at the court documents. That's exactly what I did. Okay? If you wonder why my tone and pitch changes, it's simply because I feel like it. Okay? I know some people like to be very analytical, but they lack the skills when coming to a clear judgment. Okay? I thought I'd mention that. But yeah, I looked at the court documents and how it was worded and specifically mentioned. And when I looked at some articles too, right, and the definitions, it can fall under the category of burying and then reburying later. And if Brenna was strapped for time, just temporarily bury the person, poor man's job, and then do a better job later. And I said all that before Candice Cooley said in a public interview that she thinks that Dylan Rounds was buried once and then moved on afterwards. And it would also tie in line with the final hits where the dogs were picking up on sensors of some kind of scent, DNA, relevant to Dylan Rounds, but nothing was actually found in those areas. And that with time, that DNA faded away. So that would definitely, or potentially, hint at the possibility of the original burial point. And I think when I did that video in the past, the possible first burial point where Dylan was first placed, based on all what Candice Cooley said, and what I, in a way, predicted, you could call it, and suggested in the first place, that was the video that got over 127 people watching live at the time. So you can see it was a big deal, right? And a possibility, right? Dylan has not been found yet, so there must be a reason for that. He's been buried and hidden well, or just so far away, one or the other, right? And that if there's been shortcomings along the way, possible DNA wasted with time because it wasn't analysed in time, and that dogs have reacted in certain ways at times, but they didn't always find anything, those could be the spots or a spot where Dylan was first buried and then moved on after, when they had more time to do it the following day, Sunday, maybe even the early morning of Monday before the family, the parents went down there, right? So that's what I suggested back then, and that was before it was even really publicly considered. So arguably, on the basis of a theory, an idea, I was ahead of my time. But the other people weren't exactly, the outsiders, awkward to deal with, and not really showing an understanding from a different perspective, not showing an understanding of a valid observation that it does fall under the umbrella term of desecration. So it's good that Skeptical mentions it here once again, right? You want anything else to highlight? Don't think, Sam? Skeptical, what? Did you just make a reference that Lance Kelly and wife are not together anymore? If so, I hope the trees I donated to them for their property's privacy were split in half. Right, so skeptical, I'm just going to answer this. I'm going to add a bit more clarity and depth as to what supposedly happened. So we could use the line, take it with a grain of salt, take it with a grain of pepper, and whatever else you have around your house, okay? So what I said in that video was relayed from what Ty Corbin originally stated, okay? This is all that supposedly happened with Lance Kelly. Ty Corbin said, right? It's not a Candice Cooley said situation, so some people can rest their head there before they start sweating. But no, probably a few months ago now, Ty Corbin said that Lance Kelly parted ways with his wife, Kimber, that more so Kimber, with the children, walked away from Lance Kelly because of the controlling nature of Lance Kelly, such as keeping the children away from a normal public school and homeschooling them or something, that level of control. And that Lance Kelly's supposedly maybe a bit aggressive at times and kind of manipulative and a bit of emotional manipulation as well because of an attempted faked suicide or something for sympathy. That's what supposedly Ty Corbin said. And that, in addition, Lance Kelly in North Carolina, where he's now working at some point, some kind of intimate or some kind of relation with a 16-year-old that worked at the same place Lance Kelly did. How intimate was it? How touchy? Not quite sure. I can't remember. And I guess Kimber heard about that and stuff. So whether you call that the final nail in the coffin or not, they walked away. You know, walked away from a supposedly controlling relationship. So there was a lot of dark stuff going on behind the door. Right? How true is that? Skeptical? Well, it's from what Ty Corbin has said and what he knows and what he's seen and experienced, right? I don't know if people agree with it or not, but that's what seems to be the case. Though, in a previous live stream by Lance Kelly, I think in the comment section, people were saying, how are you, Lance Kelly, and how's the wife and children? And he said, oh, it's all fine and okay. So it kind of goes against what Ty Corbin is saying, unless Lance Kelly is keeping it quiet because of what's gone on. It seems to be a messy situation, but it's away from the Dylan Rounds case. That's why I've not really looked into it, because it's not my position to do so. But I just wanted to explain it here so you know kind of what happened. But there was some point skeptical, and it was actually leading on after that, what Ty Corbin said. Bob Farrell came across a dating site, and there was a profile of Lance Kelly on a dating site claiming to be single or something, but with kids, but the kids don't live with him. But I think in the profile it was worded as they do. It was a little bit weird. So I guess that could be more evidence to say that Lance Kelly has moved on from his previous relationship because of that, that breakup, and a restraining order was filed as well, I guess, for protection of Kimber and the children. That's what Ty Corbin said, okay? But Bob Farrell did some research and found a dating site which had Lance Kelly's profile on it. And maybe there was a bio or something which was interpreted in a creepy way, right? But in addition, skeptical, speaking of creepy behaviour, and it's kind of rich considering the analysis done and the deep dive on Lance Kelly, other people out there have called out Bob Farrell, because at the time of when Ty Corbin was originally talking about Lance Kelly in the situation, and Lance Kelly having some kind of intimate relationship with a 16-year-old in North Carolina, and it's supposedly legal over there, it's okay to do so, supposedly. Bob Farrell, in a live stream, supposedly joking, but for many people it didn't come off that way. Bob Farrell said, oh, is that so? That it's legal to be with a 16-year-old in North Carolina? Bob Farrell saying, well, I better get on down there quick. Right? It is very dodgy to say. And I guess it did backfire that, because many people interpreted it in the wrong way. And in the eyes of the resistance, well, it was great ammunition for them to use against Bob Farrell, right? Talk about digging yourself into a hole, okay? Now, many supporters of Bob say he was only joking about. And yeah, you can be joking about, yeah. But not everyone's going to see it that way. So I guess you got to be prepared that there'll be backlash at times. Well, it doesn't compare to me, of course, but like when I've done a whipping or something, completely different, of course, but people have misinterpreted that, right? And said, whoa, this person needs the police calling or something, mental health check. And it's like, far from it. This is just joking about. But people see things differently with time, and that's what happened with Bob Farrell. So you know now about the supposed Lance Kelly situation, even though Lance Kelly is saying that none of that happened, and where it came from originally, from Ty Corbin, and then the situation with Bob Farrell saying he wants to be with a 16-year-old, even if it was done as a joke, people didn't see it that way. So that's the context there, in case anyone's wondering. We got KH here saying, I still think Brenner's burnt out trailer was a meth lab. Okay, fair enough. It was interesting how that theory was really pushed in the Dylan Rounds case early on. Besides the Dylan supposedly being gay, the meth labs, the drug dealing, how that was really shoved in hard, and it really fell flat, didn't it? Kind of like those people that said it in the first place. One last thing to acknowledge. Oh no, long comment. This person, KH, it's just a simple comment, so not to dismiss what was said by me in response to KH. KH may have a valid point here. Could be some kind of thing going on. You never know. This person isn't saying that it's linked with Dylan Rounds or not. They're just giving an opinion-based observation, so that's fair enough. But let's just move on to this. What are we dealing with here, Skeptical? Yeah, we may have not seen Skeptical as often these days, but she saved up all the comments for this one video. But it's not a problem. It's fine. So Skeptical says, the Grainshed property makes the most sense to me based on what has been reported and not speculation. Candice Cooley reported Dylan hadn't been at his farm for months before he went missing. He returns, possibly not expecting the rain. He begins his farming into late Friday night when he had time. Campers reported seeing farm work being done late Friday night at Little Pigeon Mountains. Saturday morning is woken up by KR's phone. Who's KR? Call realises then the incoming grain. Oh, KR, meaning Karen Rounds, the grandmother of Dylan. Otherwise, why wouldn't he have put the grain away before going to bed if he knew it was going to rain? I guess he wouldn't have done it just before going to bed, because if he's already done his farming late at night in the dark, and what was the timescale? Started at 11:30 and ended at 11:45 p.m. That is getting really late, and it's probably going to be dark as well. So to be driving the grain truck in the dark up to the Grainshed property, you could have an accident. And of course, because Brenner is most likely asleep, that would probably startle him, annoy him, and it could have led to Dylan being killed on the spot a day before then when he was going to be killed, right? So that's the way I see it there. But I think this is like a theory-based idea from Skeptical, in case people are wondering. But at least from what Karen Rounds has said in the documentary from her own words and what Justin and Candice Cooley have said, Karen Rounds received the call from Dylan in the first place, not the other way around. But nevertheless, we'll just continue reading this, okay? Where were we? KR. Okay, why didn't he do it at night? He knew how important it was. Drives to the Grainshed property, calls Brenner, verified by cell phone usage, who supposedly didn't answer. I know there's different stories as to whether the gate was locked or not, the key was there or not, but we don't know for sure. But Dylan got into the property. In a panic, he backs the truck into the shed, not realising Brenner had the horse gate up. Yeah, fair point. Backed into it. Brenner is alerted, comes out and confronts Dylan. Heat of the moment, of course, any discussion about what happens next is speculation, because Brenner is the only one who knows for sure. But based on the reported spring cleaning, in Brenner's own words, he may have put Dylan in the shed, disposed of Dylan's boots behind the dirt pile and his cell phone in Lucin Pond. This guy isn't very smart. He told Candice Cooley and Rounds he found the boots next to the shed, didn't know who they belonged to, so he put them out, yeah, just 100 feet away from the scene, behind a dirt pile, and then throws Dylan's cell phone in a pond that also nearby. Did he leave Dylan in the shed through Don Hatley coming to help look for Dylan, or did Don Hatley find out then? Yeah, I was thinking maybe Brenner confessed to Don at the barbecue, maybe, just setting the scene, the situation. Both of them told Karen Rounds Dylan wasn't around the properties, but assured her he was probably fine somewhere else, not realising Dylan's best friend would become suspicious and call Kenneth Cooley directly on Monday, who then showed up unexpectedly to Brenner, leaving him no time to possibly dispose of Dylan, if he hasn't already done so, or cleaned up remaining evidence like blood until the spring cleaning. The only piece reported, I'm not sure how it fits, is the Jubilee truck. Could it have been someone helping dispose of Dylan, since it was reported Brenner's truck wasn't reliable. Only Brenner knows for sure, and he's not talking. I know it was retorted by Justin Rounds that Brenner called Karen Rounds to try to convince her Chase Venstre murdered Dylan, but where the evidence? How does he fit into this case? I believe he was spotted in CCTV footage around the time Dylan was murdered, far away from the scene. I believe he was spotted in CCTV footage. You're talking about Chase Venstre. Yeah. Right, so if that's what you're talking about, Skeptical, the original timestamp, 7:01 a.m. at the Flying J's, Snowville, Chase Venstre on CCTV camera at 7:01. It was 7:27 a.m. once Dylan passed away. So from the CCTV footage of Chase Venstre far away and where Dylan was at the time, 27-minute time difference between when Fingy was on CCTV camera and when Dylan was long gone by then because of that time-lapse footage of Brenner in his trailer. Okay. So you got that, okay? And at 7:01, Venstre being at Snowville, where was Dylan exactly? Well, it was about 6:58 when Dylan was at the gate of the Grangeshed property. So there's only like a couple of minutes difference. You can't get from Snowville to Lucin, Utah in 2 minutes, right? This is the sheer idiocracy of where people in the background, once again, were pushing the idea that Chase Venstre was seen on CCTV at Snowville, but there was enough time and distance to make it down to Lucin, Utah in order to kill Dylan Rounds. What, 2 minutes? 2 minutes to cover miles? Bloody hell, what are you using? A rocket? I think some people have a few rockets shoved up the rear end to be thinking out of this world in possibilities like that. It's not possible, right? You think about it. 6:58. Or you want to refer to 6:51, right? 6:51 was when Dylan made a call to Karen Rounds' grandmother. 6:58 was when he tried calling Brenner. And that's at the gate of the Grangeshed property. Chase Venstre is at bloody Snowville, right? 7:27 is that time-lapse footage of when Brenner looks like he's done what he's done to Dylan. So, yeah, it just seems a bit odd. Anyway, is there anything else to acknowledge here? I'll just continue reading because it's hard to keep up with everything. As humans, it's natural to want to speculate and come up with alternative theories. I'm skeptical as hell. It's good to revisit and rehash what is known versus what could be possible. Good detectives do it all the time, but then ultimately follow the evidence. Okay. Whew, long. Oh, final one. Skeptical. Thanks, Rav. Nothing brings me out the background more than a good Dylan Rounds analysis until we know the truth for sure. I'm interested, and others should be, well, for Dylan's sake. Rest in peace. So you're welcome, Skeptical, and appreciate all the comments there. We're able to talk about it more, different discussions, and if you're here skeptical, once again, we've got another Dylan Rounds video right here, right now. So what I want to do before we go on to the second part of this video, if there is time, let's at least go on to Google Earth now to respond back to Quintessential Organics in response to Don Hatley's trailer supposedly having blood on it. Here we are, Lucin, Utah. I'm going to get straight into it. Just wanted to mention one last point from Skeptical's comments. Skeptical, if you're here right now, I just want to ask a question. So your point about when Brenner called Karen rounds and passing the blame on to Chase Venstra being the one responsible for Dylan's death or disappearance. I don't remember ever hearing that. Now, when you're talking about a call made, are you referring to when Brenner was in jail, Webber County Jail, and he made a call outwards to Karen Rounds? The time that was mentioned later on by Justin Rounds as to what previously happened in the Heavy D interview, the part 2 video inside the Grangeshed property. If that's what you're referencing, from what I remember hearing and what was said, it was Justin Rounds who was on the phone to Brenner. Brenner called him. Justin Rounds decided to answer and listen to what Brenner had to say. And it was going on the lines of, Justin said Brenner was passing the blame, the books on to Venstra being responsible, and about things being buried on site, treasure or items of interest, and about measuring the distance on the back roads to prove that Venstra's responsible or something. So there was that, and that's what Justin Rounds heard. As for Karen Rounds, yes, Brenner did reach out to Karen Rounds or vice versa, but it was more so Karen Rounds telling off Brenner for getting things wrong, and that Karen knew a lot more than what Brenner knew or was aware of, that other people knew more. Because where Brenner was locked up, held up, he didn't know, he wasn't aware that other people were learning about the case and the information along the way. So once Karen Rounds corrected Brenner, Brenner said, right, we end the conversations now, from now on you can speak to my attorney, that's it. And no more contact was made. So that's all I remember it. So skeptical, let me know if something else happened, which I'm not aware of. But Lucin. So, Don Hatley's trailer. Well, after what, 2-3 years, 2 years later, we still never got the bloody coordinates for Don Hatley's trailer, even if references were made that it was over this way here, which am I entirely confident with? Well, you had some person called Bouncy Bouse that was claiming Lucin Hill is where Brenner's, Don Hatley's trailer's at. Lucin Hill here. So there's a lot of miscommunication, breakdown in communication, and lack of getting coordinates for locals or people that have spent so much time in the area and yet they couldn't give coordinates. It makes you think, why not? Right? You don't have to go on site, but surely you can give some rough coordinates of the actual location. Okay, you might have filmed it in real life on camera, but how does it appear on maps? And after 2 years of asking, we never really got it, did we? Something so simple, yet so important as for the location. Ridiculous. Okay, hopefully that doesn't come across in a bad way saying it like that, but I just find it a bit ridiculous, right? I've provided people coordinates in other cases, and I'm not even from the bloody country, and yet I've provided coordinates. That says a lot, doesn't it? Right? But let's just say this was Don Hatley's place of living. His trailer was left there after and abandoned, right? Was it ever taken away? Well, from what Quintessential Organics said, it came across as if, yes, it was taken away upon hearing of it in recent time, it being taken away. What, so it's only just recently that Don Hatley's trailer was taken away as evidence? Why did it take that long? But then part of me just now was thinking maybe Quintessential brought this up as a past point when it was first talked about, because it reminded him of me talking about trailers, but maybe there was a misunderstanding there, Quintessential, because the trailer, what I was reiterating and re-quoting from what Candice Cooley was saying, being taken away as evidence, was the Brenner's trailer, the one Dylan bought for Brenner. That's it. Not Don Hatley's. Never mentioned that, because I never heard or saw that it was taken away as evidence. It wasn't treated as a crime scene. It wasn't investigated in depth. Okay, police went round, okay, coming across the firearms, I guess, but in terms of the ground and the area, was it dug up, was it searched, was there an analysis, was there any drones? I don't think so. Has anyone been on site besides the police? Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, have they had access, permission to go up here? Don't know. Classified as private property, so the likes of Lance Kelly, Ty Corbin, never visited this spot. But do you know what I do want to say, just in general, roughly speaking? If this place is of high value or interest, and that quintessential referring how someone in the past said that Don Hatley's trailer here had blood on it, are we saying blood was on the outside of the trailer or on the inside? Because if blood was found here, and blood was also found in that time-lapse footage of Brenner, it makes me believe that on the same day as that barbecue and the same day as Dylan's death and fate, that maybe Brenner still had some blood on him. Fast forward onwards, going to Don Hatley's barbecue and somehow smearing blood on Don Hatley's trailer accidentally. I mean, it would be a fair point there, considering there was a considerable amount of blood, let's call it that, from how it's been described in the time-lapse footage. And on the same day, going to Don Hatley's later, one thing could link to another, right? So that's my point, what I'm trying to put across right now. But in general, okay, a place of interest, a person of interest at some point. Why was there never a deep investigation of this land? Because guess what? What about Brenner's former place of living? Much further away, across the border. Lance Kelly referring to it, Ty Corbin referring to it, wanting the police to investigate, and that's what they did. Was anything found? No. But was a thorough investigation done at the time? Yes. So if something can happen to that depth, that far away, then why can't it happen with Don Hatley's place of living, when Don Hatley was considered a person of interest at some point, considered as a potential witness by Candice Cooley in the early days when Justin Rounds was calling him out on Facebook, and, you know, a person of interest in terms of proximity and connectedness with Brenner, because they're friends, could have shared things between one another, Brenner could have confessed, and proximity to the crime scene. Okay, bit more distance away, but still within the area of Lucin. This area being much closer to the crime scene than Brenner's burnt down trailer across the border, yet the border over that way, Brenner's burnt down trailer received more attention and care than Don Hatley's place. And now you're saying supposedly blood was found, or by someone, blood found on Don Hatley's trailer? Wow. So you're telling me, in addition, that police went down there, they found the firearms, but they just completely ignored the blood. But someone else out there, whoever it was in the early days, said that blood was found on the trailer or on the inside, yet the police did nothing about that. It does sound like BS to me, right? Now, quintessential is just simply passing it on from where he first heard it. That's it. But it's very interesting how it's only been talked about now, right? So what do we have? We've got blood on a backhoe. That was mentioned by the shack lady. It was mentioned by Lance Kelly, but the identity of the backhoe owner couldn't be mentioned, but they know. What are they hiding then? They seem to know more about the case than the family do, and the police. And then the likes of Corey, knowing the original story. Well, she seems to know more about the case than the family does, and the police does. And she's supposedly going in court or trial, but publicly talking about all this sensitive information. What a circus performance. Get the clowns out and the lions. Oh, they've already escaped. Yeah. The reason why I would say this is BS with the whole blood situation, because no action was actually taken or done. And you know what else is very interesting? And I'm not going to be very specific here because it's just going to cause unnecessary trouble. But the reality is, people are tiptoeing about this property because it's private. They don't want to get in trouble. Okay. Anyone in general don't want to get in trouble. But there are certain people out there that are very cautious with not even attempting to explore this location, but some, or the odd one, is very okay with supporting someone out there that causes disruption and harm within the case and maybe goes after the family. Well, isn't that harming and damaging the case? So I think, looking out of interest for the case here wouldn't be as bad or any worse than supporting other things out there in the background which are causing harm or damage in the case, let's just call it that. I think it all comes down to, well, we don't want to get in trouble. If someone else gets in trouble, we'll support them. If someone else causes trouble, causes damage, but they also get the blame, well, we'll support them. But if it's us, no. We're going to be very careful. We're going to be very clean. We're going to be law-abiding citizens. whilst at the same time secretly supporting or enabling disruption and corruption within the case in the background in the community of the YouTube streets and the true crime community. Yeah. But I do think, all in all, I don't know if the family would have had access or been able to. You know, just from the family perspective, if they've checked the Grainshed property, they've checked the pond, you know, all over that way, right? And have ticked places off the list. Have they been to Don Hatley's place of living? Have they checked for soil ground disturbance, right? Just as a possibility. Okay? And as I was saying, about the blood situation on the Don's trailer, never heard about it before, so it could be BS. But at the same time, it's understandable to think that it could have a link to Brenner, just because Brenner was going in that direction later on in the day, post Dylan's death, post time-lapse footage of Brenner covered in blood on his hands, his sleeves, his shirt. There could have been excess blood that remained. But then again, you got to be critical and say, but doesn't blood dry? It does. So you're not going to be able to smear it the same way unless you took the body with you to Don Hatley's place, and somehow in the disposing of it on Don Hatley's land, there was blood on the trailer. Could that link to why Don Hatley left the area? Because he didn't want to live on site next to a dead body? Well, you could say, well, that's a possibility, but that's the thing. Don Hatley didn't leave the area immediately, so it's probably unlikely. And I don't think Don Hatley would just outright let Brenner take Dylan's body up to his place of living and say, oh, do you mind if I bury this body next to your trailer? I don't think Don would be that stupid. Because if you think about it, Don Hatley allowed Brenner to pass the firearms on to Don, but then Don got a bit cautious, wary, suspicious, and then decided to grass on Brenner because Don did not want to get in trouble or be dragged down by Brenner. So because Don acting quick and being cautious, I don't think he'd be that stupid to let Brenner take Dylan's body up to here, right? And I just don't think that would be possible. So maybe it completely rules it out in terms of the blood situation. But if there's anyone else out there that's heard about it, let me know in the comment section down below. So I don't think there's enough time to refer to the second part of this video discussion-wise, because it got a bit heavy before with Dylan Rounds, but it can be saved for a separate video. But just to at least acknowledge it in summary, in brief now. Basically, what I was mentioning was the labelling of rants can be used very loosely and thrown about on different channels and videos. Just because someone's talking in depth, in length, oh, it's a rant. Just because someone's talking with a certain flow and style, it's a rant. There's a difference between a rant and a valid discussion. There's a difference between a rant and valid observations being made in an analytical format. But obviously, people that lack the analytical skills will be ignorant enough to label everything or anything in sight as a rant. So all the prats out there that have come onto my channel and said, I'm not really into these rants, get your wording right. It's not a rant, it's an analysis, okay? It's observations. It's a discussion. A discussion is completely different to a rant, okay? I said, we can go into more depth in a second video, but you normally assume a rant being negative, bit aggressive, bit erratic, unstable, all over the place. But these discussions, these observations are far from that, and there's a deeper meaning behind it and a more positive one. But the ignorant people don't know that or pick up on it because they don't bother to listen. Selective hearing. They like to use their quirky little lines, their quirky little titles and whatnot, regardless of the age they are, and then label this and that incorrectly. So those words and phrases lose the meaning behind them. So it's pathetic within humans, isn't it? So more about that in a next video or whenever. So be on the lookout for that. But hopefully you found this video interesting. A few more discussions along the way. Some more videos to cover. Be on the lookout for them. If you did watch this video late, make sure to catch up from the start so you understand what's been talked about. And if anyone, outsiders, want to complain or criticise about my title of the video, Buster Bitchamus, or Smile Now, Whine and Bitch and Moan Later, or some other people out there, Indiana 59, the typical circus performance acts of prats and appearing as low IQ, impetuous, egocentric individuals, and many far more onwards out there in certain directions, and Ty Corbin too, if they want to complain about the title of this video and use their quirky little false label of clickbait, well, you're invalid before you've even left a comment. You're invalid. It's not a valid point, and you know why? Because the title of this video includes a question mark, which isn't meaning it's a fact, some uncertainty, a suggestion and an outline of what's supposedly been said. A question mark does convey a message. Maybe not of confidence, but of clarity as to what the situation is. Learn your language, learn your wording, look, listen, watch, rewatch, revise before you talk, before you type, and be a good boy. Okay? You think you can do that for me? So on that note, I think we'll end the video there. Feel free to like and share the video to spread awareness. As I said, feel free to check the eye symbol icon, top right corner of the screen, to catch up on videos you may have missed out on, and down below in the pinned comments with some additional links. See you next time, whenever that is, and maybe we can go in a bit more depth with that last discussion part. Okay?